right, you guys, this episode 59 of Inner Demons, and like always, I'm going to get straight to it. So real quick, you guys, before I jump into this, I want to address a couple things. So first and foremost, I appreciate all the positive comments that you guys have been dropping, all of them. Trust and believe, rest assured, I read all of them. Even though I might not respond to every comment online, believe me, I read through them, I digest them so that when I come on here, I can address something that I might need to address, but I do read them. The same thing goes with IG. I know I need to do better at responding on IG as well. I'm terrible, but what it is sometimes there's so many comments or so many messages on there that I'll take an hour just to respond to some of that and to some of you guys, and I won't even put a dent in it. So it's not that there's a lack of interest. It's not that, I would never ignore any of you guys. I appreciate and value the things that you guys confide in me about sometimes, the things that, you talk about in your messages. So it's got nothing to do with that. I will do better at trying to respond, to more of you guys in the IG, as well as the comments in the comment section, because I've been trying to interact with a lot more of you than I have in the past. Now, the other thing is, a lot of you guys, you'll make comments and you'll apologize for saying what you're saying. Look, my skin is thick. As long as you're not being disrespectful, I embrace constructive criticism. That's the only way somebody's going to get better. I don't got this big ego where I think I'm doing everything right. I'm human. I make a lot of mistakes. I'm not perfect. So, this is for you guys. But if you guys see me doing something that could be done better, or if I'm doing something wrong, or if I'm being repetitive and I'm repeating the same stuff, by all means, let me know. It's going to happen sometimes. Sometimes it's going to happen. But, that's the only way I'm going to get better, is to have knowledge. If I don't know, how am I gonna make a change? How am I gonna get better at it? So, I embrace the constructive criticism. And again, my skin is a lot thicker than that. So, I actually look for constructive criticism, because that's the way that I'm gonna make the channel better, is by listening to some of you guys, your feedback. Anyways, let me jump straight back into this next episode. Oh, one last thing before I do. So for those of you that don't know, I have another channel. It was called Paradigm Entertainment Productions. I changed the name of the channel. It's now called Saved Out Media. SAVVD Out Media. So if you guys haven't subbed, please sub to that channel. Help me grow it. I want to build that channel up and start investing more time into that channel as well. It's just I don't have enough people subscribe to it. So if you would, I'd appreciate it if you would support us by subbing to that channel. Again, it's called Saved Out Media. I believe I put the link in the comments in the community section. So go in the community section and see if you can find the link. It's in one of the comments. Maybe I'll put it where you guys can see it somewhere where it's outwardly in a spot right there on the dashboard where you guys can just go straight through right there. Anyways, let me get into this next episode. So obviously there's a lot going on right now, and I'm trying not to talk about some of the same stuff. I talked about my addiction. I talked about a lot of things in the last episode. With regards to my addiction, let me just kind of wrap up a few things with regards to that. So one of the things I wanted to kind of just touch on real quick is, I told you guys that I was out there struggling with my addiction. Obviously, it's something that I've struggled with over the years, throughout the years. So anyways, I've talked about this in the past, but, for those of you guys that don't know, I'm going to say it again. The NF has always had a stringent no tolerance policy, a zero tolerance policy when it comes to hardcore drugs, heroin, meth, cocaine, PCP. It has a zero tolerance policy for any kind of habit forming drugs. You're not going to get hit. You're not going to get whacked if somebody finds out that you're shooting heroin the first time. If you're in a position, you're probably going to get stripped. You're probably going to get demoted, and, you might get some discipline, catch a fine, something like that. But you're not going to get whacked right off the top. But you're going to get warned after that. And if you continue to use and you continue, to get loaded, then you run the risk of getting whacked. And that's what's happened in the past. A lot of NF members, have been warned, and they continue to use, thinking that they could, do it on the slunders, and somebody found out, or they have those outwardly signs and they end up getting whacked. Somebody that always comes to mind is Ray Perez, Chocolate from San Jose. He's somebody that was warned about his use with, I believe it was heroin, and he ended up getting whacked because of it. He was actually killed out there. So, this is something they took serious back in the 70s, the 80s, and even up to the mid 90s. It's something that's still pushed out there. And if you get caught, there's consequences. And that's something that's pushed across the board. However, let me just say that, I'm not going to say that the whole organization is a bunch of dope fiends and everybody's gouged out and loaded on heroin or meth, but there is a lot of C's that they use, they indulge. There's a lot of them. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. And, they do it in the privacy of their own home. They do it behind closed doors. I call them closet junkies. I know, because that's what I was doing. I was doing it in the privacy of my own home. I was doing it when I was doing it by myself, thinking that nobody else knew about it, which they didn't. I didn't have any outward signs. Like I said, I was skin popping. I didn't have a bunch of tracks. I wasn't like that. I was hiding it very well. I was even at one point, I was a functioning addict. I was able to hold a job down, do what I was doing out there in the streets, and you would never know. You would never know. I always, stay fitted up. I always drove a nice car, had money in my pocket. I was never a bum like that. I never allowed myself to get on bum status. I would go out and hit a lick before I ever allowed myself, to get like that. But, that's what a lot of C's would do out there. Even C's in positions like myself. I was a regimental commander throughout the years in different regiments, and almost every time, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I'm going to keep it 100. Almost every time I started using, but I hid it. I hid it. Nobody knew about it. But what's interesting is, so I'm out there in San Jose, and, I tell you guys that I started using because, I seen everything closing in on me. I seen all the outward signs were there. Things started happening that just told me that, I'm on borrowed time. It's about to go down. When? I don't know, but it's coming. I knew that. I had that conversation with Pony, and I told Pony when we found the GPS tracking devices on our cars, bro, this is your opportunity right now to go ahead and kick rocks. And you're not going to be looked at in in a negative way at all, bro. I'm giving you your out right now, but this is your only chance. Because, I had that conversation with them because I knew they were coming. Pony, even though he was my second and he was probably the closest with me out there as far as interacting, we interacted on a daily basis. He never knew about me using. He never knew that, I was addicted out there. Although I knew about him getting high on meth, the signs were there. I could tell. He hit it very well himself, but I could still tell. At times, there's just these little telltale signs about somebody, about people that use. If you've been around them, you know what those signs are. And I seen them in him, but I never said nothing. How could I? I would have felt like a hypocrite. I mean, I still had to be a hypocrite at some point because I was a leader. I still had to, to tell the rest of the manpower that they couldn't indulge in hardcore drugs, that it was okay to smoke weed, drink a little bit of alcohol for social purposes, but to use hardcore drugs, it was forbidden. And if they were caught, I would fine them. I had to. I know it's hypocritical, but I had to be a hypocrite in that position. So what I was going to tell you guys is I kept it from Pony, even though I felt like me and him were, we had developed a relationship where he was kind of like my brother, at one point. And I felt like I probably could open up to him and tell him, hey, look, bro, look, I'm struggling with this right here. And he probably wouldn't have said nothing. Well, I know he wouldn't have. Who was he going to tell? You know, it's not like Pony knew anybody in the organization. So I knew that if I told him that it wouldn't go nowhere, just stay between me and him. But there was a part of me that was ashamed about my addiction. I'm a leader. You know, people are looking up to me. And, you know, to come out with something like this, I'm sure it would have blew his mind like, damn. But what was the trip was one day we were over there on Beecher Court at my house on the east side, San Jose, the same house that Roger ended up helping me get into through his niece. So we're at my house one day, and I want to say we were sitting down at my kitchen table and we were counting money. And you know, anytime he came over, I told you guys I never had traffic coming in and out of my house. That was a policy that I had way before the NF, the NR, any of that. That's just a policy that I've always had myself. Like, you know, that's my crib. My spot is not a place where I'm going to have a lot of traffic coming in and out. There's only a select few that I would let come over there to my spot. And obviously, whenever somebody would come over, you know, I'd make sure that everything was put up, nothing was laying out. And I'm talking about as far as like paraphernalia or anything like that. But, you know, it's not like I live like that anyway. You know, I got OCD. I'm a clean freak. And I think, you know, prison done that to me. There can't be a picture that's crooked on the wall. If there is a picture that's crooked on the wall or something's just not lined up right, it will bother me. I'll have to go over there and fix it. You know, if something's not sitting right on a table or something, I'll have to fix it. If there's dishes in the sink, I will wash them. If there's laundry, I'll wash it. You know, if there's anything on the floor, I'm always vacuuming, mopping, sweeping. I think prison done that to me. But, you know, what I'm trying to say is, even though I would clean the house up, you know, as far as paraphernalia like that anyway, I would never leave anything just laying out anyway. It's not the way that I used to live, like a slob. But when, you know, Pony would come over or some of the other brothers would come over, Sykes was another one that I would allow to come over. Obviously, Roger, he had lived there before. And there might have been a couple others, but for the most part, those were the only ones right there. But when we were at my house that day, one day, me and Pony, we were sitting in my kitchen, we were counting money. There was I had something on the table with an outfit, a syringe. I had a syringe there somewhere that I forgot it was there. I didn't know it was there. Somehow I overlooked it or something. But when I picked something up to move it on the table, it dropped on the table and bounced. And I covered it up like as fast as I could. Like as soon as I dropped it, it was like, it was gone. But he's seen it. He's seen it. I know he's seen it. It was from that point on, it was like the elephant in the room. He's seen it. He didn't say nothing. And I didn't say nothing. I just swooped it up all in one motion, choop, choop, and I was gone. I went and put it away. And, you know, we carried on with what we were doing. But I felt, even though he didn't say nothing, just I felt different from that point on. Once he seen it, the cat was out the bag. I knew it. And that conversation would actually come up later. You guys will remember that. But, you know, that incident, it did happen. And it's something that we would end up talking about later on. It's just crazy. But, you know, Pony never said nothing. He never said nothing. So anyways, over the course of the next couple of weeks, a couple things were going on. A couple things started happening. One is there was an individual out there that we were dealing with named Jerome. And I believe he might even have passed away. Rest in peace to Jerome. You know, even though we had our differences, it is what it is. But we were dealing with Jerome on some level. Actually, Pony was dealing with him, or it might even have been Turtle. One of the other guys was dealing with him. He fell into debt, and it was I want to say it was like a quarter pound or a half pound or something like that. It was something that just couldn't be written off. And, you know, we had to get that money back, obviously. So that was an issue that came up out there that had to be dealt with. And, from that point on, Jerome became a target. At first, it was, we need to get at him and, get that money back. Because what ended up happening is, I believe, if I remember right, he got into one of the brothers ended up giving him like a half pound to sell to somebody else. And the other person didn't want to meet the other brother. So he gave it to Jerome, and they were supposed to do the transaction, and he was supposed to bring the money back. Well, Jerome got in the car and ended up driving off and just took off. He said he ended up coming back later, but either way, he took off, money gone. I couldn't believe that, the individual, the brother that allowed him to do that would even let him get in the car like that, but it happened. So that was an incident. So, because he took off with that money and the way that he did it, this became an issue for the regiment. From that point on, Jerome, like I said, lightweight became a target. So, put that aside. That was one issue that I was dealing with out there. Now, one of the other issues that ended up happening was, so you guys remember a few episodes back, I talked about Conejo. I want to say Conejo was from Palmas, but one of the viewers said that he was from East Hills, I believe he said. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I always thought Conejo was from Palmas, but either way, it's not that big of a deal. He's from either East Hills or Palmas. Anyways, Conejo was the individual that was working with Charlie out there in the other regiment. Charlie was out there by Hollister, and Conejo had got in trouble because he ended up owing a debt to the regiment. Somehow he ended up, I want to say he started using or something, or he messed up some money and he put himself in a hole and he couldn't pay it back. And I basically saved him. His career was done at one point. They were getting ready to pull the trigger, and some of the guys I was working with knew him, and they asked if I could save him. And that's when I got him from Charlie. I talked to Charlie, and we came to an agreement that I would take him. Either way, I want to say some money was paid or Charlie wrote it off. But either way, we came to an agreement that he would come work with me and I would save him. My purpose was to salvage him. So that's what I did. I brought him over with me. He started working in my regiment. And for the most part, he was one of my biggest dealers as far as getting rid of product. He was good for at least a pound a week. There was a couple of them that could move that much weight, and he was one of them. So, when he came over to me and he started pushing that much weight, it was, that was an incentive to the regiment, obviously. But then he started to fall into debt. Again, I don't remember exactly what happened, how it happened. Pony was the one dealing with the manpower directly. All I remember is that he ended up falling into a lightweight debt. It wasn't nothing crazy. And he was actually starting to pay it back within the last 2 weeks I was out there. So, that was another issue that was going on. And you guys will understand all this later. So I had the Jerome issue. I had the issue now with Conejo. And then something else happened. So aside from those two issues, something else happened around that same time. And, this is what basically happened. So that week, I want to say that week around that same time, I sent the visitor up to go see, I want to say it was Corny that week. As we did every week. Every week she would go up there and facilitate whatever we had going to them and they had coming out to me. So Pony took her up there that week. I believe they were at the Glen Dyer facility at that time. And, she passed everything in, and obviously there was some stuff coming out. I don't remember exactly everything that it was. It's been a while now. It was household business, stuff dealing with money, whether it was things that were going on in Salinas or Watsonville. I don't remember. There was a lot of issues going on at that time. But one thing that was in there was they wanted me to meet one of their wives, that week to pick something up. And I was just told to, when I get this, they wanted me to decipher it, to digest it, go through it with a fine-tooth comb, to read everything. There was a lot of stuff in there that pertained to me directly, and then there was some stuff that pertained to Sykes from Goshen, one of the only other C's that was functioning in my regiment. And they told me, once you get the stuff that pertains to Sykes, let him come over, let him check it out, so he's abreast of it. And all the stuff that's dealing with you, go ahead and check it out, so you'll see what it is once you get it. I didn't know what it was. All I knew is that they had something that they wanted me to check out, and that I would know more about it once I picked it up. So I ended up meeting with one of their wives. Again, I don't remember which one it was. And I meet with her. She gives me a disc. It ended up being a disc. So I take the disc back to the house, and I throw it in the hard drive, and I start going through it. And basically what it was 1,956 pages of court-sealed documents. I'm talking about all kind of information, not just dealing with Operation Black Widow, but dealing with just a lot of SSU information, stuff that, their intelligence. There was Pelican Bay memorandums. There was Corcoran memorandums from the SHU. There was, debriefs. I want to say there was 402s. I think a 402 is like the Fed's version of a debrief. Some of you that are watching that been to federal prison, you guys would know what I'm talking about. I think it's called a 402 or something like that. But it's basically when somebody's giving up information. There were debriefs in there. There were people that were telling. They had whole witness lists that were active on the streets, all the identifying information, their addresses, everything. So, you guys can imagine what I was doing. I was in the process, over the course of the next couple of weeks of identifying these individuals and whacking them. Because I had asked them, what do you guys want us to do, with these individuals that are identified as being informants that are out here on the streets, active informants right now? And they told me straight up, start whacking them. So I was literally in the process, aside from the other two things that I already told you guys about in the last episode, all this stuff ended up getting dropped in my lap too. I was all for this though. The other things, I couldn't understand it. This right here though, I understood it. This is what I do. This is what we're supposed to do. This comes with the territory right here, and it makes sense. So, I had Post-its all over my computer. I had written notes, half-written notes. When they would come in later, a couple weeks later, and raid my pad, they would find a lot of that stuff. And they put two and two together and were probably like, this dude was in the process of going after these guys. Because again, I had, their addresses written down, their names, and, the stuff that pertained to me. It was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking to see some of that stuff, because it was coming from a few people that I held near and dear. And, despite what I've done in the past and whatever I went through, it doesn't matter. Even if you've gone through it, when you see it, it's still heartbreaking. It's still heartbreaking to see betrayal. Guys that you thought you were real tight with, or you were tight with, but, they were put in a position to where they felt like they had to do what they needed to do, but they dumped on me. I couldn't believe what I was reading, and I'm not going to get into it because it's water under the bridge now. But at the time when I was reading it, I couldn't believe what I was reading. So one thing I want to say about this though is you guys got to understand that these types of criminal organizations, whether it's the NF, the Mexican Mafia, the Aryan Brotherhood, the BGF, we're always trying to put people in positions that will benefit the organization. And what I mean by that is, if we got wives, girlfriends, daughters, sons, cousins, people that we trust, family, if we can put them in positions like, working in corrections, working in obviously clerical, working in a bank, you get somebody that's working in the bank, they have access at credit reports. And if you can pull somebody's credit report, you can see their past, their whole entire rental history, or all their addresses. All that stuff comes up on the credit report. So that's something that's beneficial. Obviously, somebody working in the military, somebody that works in law enforcement, these kind of jobs right here, we would always want to put people that are close to us in these jobs so that they can be a conduit, or they would be like, through them, we take advantage of whatever information that benefits us for whatever reason, exploiting them, exploiting that information, or utilizing it for our interest, whatever it is. So, it wasn't surprising that they were able to get that information. It was 1,956 pages of court sealed documents, and there's only a few people that could have come from. It had to come from a clerk or a judge. That kind of information right there isn't even accessible to the district attorney. This is court sealed information. So I knew that, when they did come and raid me a couple weeks later, I knew that was going to open up a whole new can of worms once they found that disc. So after I got that disc, the next few days after that, I literally just stayed in front of the computer, just absorbing and reading as much of this stuff as I could. I stayed locked in on that stuff. Anyways, aside from all that, the one other issue that came up was with Largo. So at that time out there, I told you guys that I started working with Largo on some level, and it was regimental business. Even though he wasn't part of the regiment, he knew that the product that we had was regiment product. So he started selling a little bit of weight. I think he was picking up no more than an ounce, maybe 2 ounces at a time. It was small. But again, he would always meet Pony off of Aborn. And for the viewer that tapped in about Aborn in the restaurant that's over there by Aborn, you are 100% correct. It is a Wendy's. And that will come up later again. So this particular Wendy's restaurant off of Aborn, Capitol Expressway over there, was a spot where Pony used to always meet Largo. That was the spot where I told you guys I met Pony at, and he thought somebody was looking in his car, and we got surveilled from that point on. But that one location right there was 100% specifically tied to Largo. So Largo, again, he was selling ounces, but at some point he ended up falling into debt. So for the next week or two, I gave Largo every opportunity to try to make it right. I gave him a couple days to come up with some of the money, and he couldn't get it. I gave him another week to come up with some of the money. He couldn't get it. I gave him a little bit more product to flip that to see if he could, get himself out of the hole, and he couldn't do it. He just kept going deeper and deeper into the hole. So it got to the point to where I basically told Largo, look, bro, if you can't clear that debt, I'm going to take your truck. He had a step side, and I want to say he had a bike. And I didn't want to do it because I know Largo. We have history together, but business is business. I'm not going to eat that. It was at least 3,000 or 4,000 that he couldn't pay back. So, I didn't want to take his truck, although it was a nice truck. It was a step side. I really didn't want to take it, but I had no other choice. And I kept telling him, Largo, man, you got till the end of next week to pay that, or I'm going to have to get that pink slip from you, bro. And I want to say I was going to take his truck and his bike. I don't remember the details, but, that was going on. Largo was stressed out. He knew that he was in a situation, and, he just kept telling me, hey, Box, I'll get it to you this week. I'll get it to you this week. So with regards to Jerome, I don't remember exactly who got in touch with him, but somebody got in touch with him and basically let him know, hey, homie, look, bro, you need to return that money somehow, some way, or you're going to have major problems. That was regiment money, and, you need to pay that back. We weren't really tripping off the fact that he pulled a scandalous move by getting in that car and taking off. Could have tripped on that, but my whole thing was just to get that money back. And Jerome knew he was in a situation, a bad situation. Jerome wasn't somebody that was working with the regiment, but he'd been around for a while. Jerome knew what was up. He's done a lot of time, so he knew what time it was. Anyways, we ended up getting in touch with Jerome. And so when I talked to Jerome that night, I told him to come down to the limousine business, and we were going to talk about it, figure it out, and we'll go from there. But I'm gonna keep it 100 with you guys. I told Jerome that we weren't tripping off of the way he got into the car and took off with the dough, but I was tripping on it. I didn't let him know that, but he was about to find out. So when I told him to meet us at the limousine business, really, the reason why I wanted him to come down there is because I was waiting for him with somebody else. It was me and somebody else. We were waiting for him with baseball bats. We had 2 bats. We had them sitting up against the garage door, the roller door. We had him sitting up against there, and we were just waiting for him to pull up. I kept calling him, and he was like, "Yeah, bro, I'm on my way. I'm over here on the east side, or I'm over here wherever he was at." And he was like, "I'll be there in like 20 minutes." 15 minutes go by, 20 minutes go by. I had to call him back. "Jerome, what's up, bro? Where you at? I got some other things I need to take care of, homie. You can either show up or you're not going to show up." Yeah, no, I'm coming right now. So for whatever reason, he didn't show up. Maybe he felt like he was walking into a trap. And like I said, Jerome has done time. He's not stupid. He's smart. And I believe that that's what it was. He felt something was off, and he didn't show up that night. And it's probably best that he didn't, because if he would have showed up, I'd already had it in my mind. There was nothing to talk about. He wasn't going to talk his way out of it. He was going to end up having a bad night that night. I'm not going to say, I was thinking about taking it to the limit, but he was going to have a bad night. He was going to have some bad ooh-wee knots. So, I got this situation with Conejo. I got this other situation going on with Latigo. I got this other situation going on with Jerome. All of them owed money. So I was trying to get all this money back. You guys got to understand, being a regimental commander, a lot of this money I was accountable for. I couldn't clear the books because this debt, it was growing. I could have easily took some money out of the safe I had at Rogers' house. I had the money to cover it, but I wasn't going to cover it. That's not my job to cover that. These guys all put themselves in a bad situation. I'm not going to go eat $9 grand. That's about what it was. So what ended up happening is Jerome, he played keep away. He was like, "Look, I'm not coming down there. I don't know what your guys' intentions are. I'm not meeting up with nobody, but look, I'm going to sign the keys over to my Cadillac." So he ends up signing the Cadillac over to me. And for the most part, his debt is squashed. I didn't deem him. He wasn't on bad standings, but still, he had an issue coming when we ran into him. But Jerome was running around out there in the streets. I knew I probably wasn't going to run into him. Me, myself, I know I wasn't. But I did tell, like, Turtle and some of the other brothers that were out there running around, "Hey, if you end up running into him, just go ahead and mop him up real quick. Give him a good thrashing and let him know not to ever pull no scandalous shit like that again." So Jerome made do on his debt. Latigo was stressed out. I know he was trying to get the money, but he was having problems getting it. And I knew why, because he was using. It was obvious. Again, the outward signs were there. When I met up with him, I think I met him at Rogers' house one night, close to the end. I met him at Rogers' house. He came over there when I was there, and his mouth was dry. He had cracked lips. He just had that look, and he was fidgeting and moving funny. He had all the signs that just you could tell somebody that's using that shit. And he told me, he's like, "B, man, I'm trying to get you that money." He was like, and I asked him, I'm like, "Latigo, you using?" Straight up, bro. Be honest with me. And he told me no. He looked me right in my eyes and he told me no. So being that I knew Largo, we had a lot of history, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. He asked for another week to try to get the money back. He said he had some things lined up, so I gave him another week. But I told him again, I kept telling him, Largo, if you can't get the money, bro, I'm telling you, just sign the truck over. Sign the truck, we'll squash it. If you want to get the truck back later, you want to buy it back, I'm good with that, bro. But this debt needs to get squashed. So, he assured me that over the next few days, he was going to try to get it and that he would at least have half of it by, that Friday or something. I remember it was within a couple days. So as far as Conejo and the debt that he owed, Conejo was pushing a lot of weight. He was pushing a lot of weight, and he was chipping away at the debt that he owed the regiment. Again, I don't remember what the figures were right now. It's been a while, but it was something in the neighborhood of between 5 and 8,000, somewhere around there. But he was knocking it down. For every pound he sold, he would knock off like a G. So he was doing his thing, but still, being that he came from another regiment for these same issues, it wasn't a good look for him, but nonetheless, he was taking care of it. So I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Anyways, all this stuff was going on at that time. Anyways, you guys, this is probably a good place to cut this one, but trust me, episode 60 is going to be a banger. I'm probably going to leave you guys on a cliffhanger. Maybe I'll get into a couple of war stories and take a break from Inner Demons for like a week or something. I don't know. We'll see, man. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I know that I was kind of all over the place, but you guys got to understand there was a lot going on out there at this time. But just keep in mind, I had that disc. It was still in my computer. I had these debts that were going on. People had a reason to want to get me out the way. They knew that I was going to take, their possessions. So just remember that when we start to go into episode 60, you guys understand some of this stuff you guys got to figure out for yourself as we're going along. For those of you that are not smart enough to figure it out, and I mean that with good humor, I'll explain it. Anyways, this episode 59, I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is your boy B, and I'm out.